Okay, you ready? It's called to order, please. Everybody's attention. Everybody got meeting? So keep back up. A couple kids left over. Sergeant's doing, hope that's okay, we continue. Get the ball rolling back here. I hope lunch was good for everybody. Once again, when you get the survey after the conference, please let us know how it was. We're very interested in that, not only particular lunch, but other options or whatever, the quality of it, and also the options. So let us know that, whatever, we'll take those and make it better. So at this time, we're getting ready to have Michael Peters come up and do his lunch keynote presentation. Before we do that, I'd like to have a couple of reminders. We do the bingo. Everybody's got the bingo cards in your program. You walk around. This is all sponsored. You get all the spaces filled out. Turn that into the registration desk. We'll be using that to draw from the prizes at the end of the day. You also award CPs for your attendance today. If you need CPs, you qualify for being here. You qualify for 8 CPs. You do have to have been registered and come in, and also you have to be here and get the CP certificate from us before we leave. If you go home and get the effect and prove you were here. That's one thing for us we have to require to do, is make sure that you were here, and then we're fine with it. And then the CP certificate will be there in case you're audited and they need proof, and that's our proof that you were here.
Where do you get them?
Where do you get them?
Registration desk on the way out. We do have an ISSA booth here. If you may see it coming in, it's kind of turn around backwards. We have all the ISSA material. If you're not an ISSA member, obviously I highly recommend that you join. It's $130 a year. I can tell you it's money best money I've ever spent. I've made more contacts, learned more, and had more fun than you can imagine. We meet on a monthly basis. We have really awesome speakers. Also, you get a free tickets to this conference as a benefit of the membership. So I highly recommend that you go to the ISSA website and join and indicate Kentucky chapter as your affiliation, unless you're from somewhere else, and indicate your local affiliation to your local chapter. Okay? So I do have some more important business to take care of before Michael comes up and speaks. As you know, we are a function of the ISSA Kentucky chapter. It is run by a board of directors. All these people are volunteers. They devote their time and their efforts. Blood, sweat, and tears, I like to say. Not much blood, but a lot of tears. They do help to make this conference great and the chapter great. I want to take the time to recognize the officers and also to recognize a couple of officers that have really gone above and beyond on a very consistent basis. So the first thing that I want to do is introduce the officers. The first officer that I see is Todd Kravitz. Raise your hand, Todd. Todd Kravitz is Director of Programs. He's also a big shot at cadre. He's a Keynote sponsor of ours for the Toy Group, and he's fantastic. We're really happy to have him. Who's next? Kelly. Kelly Miller is our Vice President. She's another big shot, working for Mount Joy Chilton Medley, and she's the Vice President. She's been an officer with us for several years now. We're really happy to have her. Next is Matt Whitten. We have a lot of big shots. Matt's a CISO of University of Louisville, little school you might have heard of, the Chief Security Officer there. Matt is our Director of Member Relations, which is fancy way of saying membership. So he takes care of the members, make sure that they're all taken care of. I'm very happy to have him on board. The next one I see is Jeremy Gruen, Jedi Master of all things web application security. He is the Director of Education. It's surprising we can fit his brain in the room. He's very, very smart about all this stuff. He gives, after our monthly meetings, he gives like a half an hour class on web application security. It's just phenomenal. It's all free. Amazing to have him on board with us. And the next that I see there is, what's your name? Miss Yvonne. Miss Yvonne is our treasurer. She pays all our bills. Couldn't survive without her. She's also another big shot of Mount Joy. Mount Joy Children Medley, and they have been a big supporter of ours for a while as a sponsor, and also allow the people to participate with us as volunteers. We appreciate that quite a bit. The next I see is Gary Hampton. Gary Hampton is a big wireless guy. He sends up all the wireless to UPS. Worldwide, goes around and sets it all up, does testing. Amazing talent we have there. Gary is our director of communications, obviously. He works the websites, does all the email spam you get from us, that's his fault. So he's our guy for that. I appreciate him very much. And last but definitely not least is Carl Alexander. Carl is wearing many hats again this year, as always. Carl's been an officer for like 40 years or something. Carl has a founding member of this chapter. Basically, when they poured the concrete, they poured around him. He's been on the board ever since. He is currently our marketing director, and he has also stepped up to be the chair of this conference. One thing that I want to make sure to point out here is that everything that you've got going on here right now is out of Carl's brain. He led the charge this year and took over this fantastic team right here. Every one of them has helped out to help him out and make this conference work today. So, without any further ado, I want to make sure to tell everybody that we're awarding them awards. First one is going to be the Shining Star Award. Shining Star is obviously what you think it might be. Somebody that is shining, somebody that is a star. So the Shining Star Award is very appropriate. It goes to someone who has participated, added amazing value to our chapter. They have shined in their role. They have an amazing, bright future with the chapter in an InfoSec profession. And I would like to award the winner on behalf of the ISSA Kentucky in a chapter. The winner of this award, the 2012 ISSA Kentucky in a Shining Star Award, is Jeremy Brewer. Come on up, Jeremy. I have fingerprints all over. Does this still work for Jeremy? Jeremy was nominated, and I'd like to read the words that were said about Jeremy. He has poured his heart out each of the monthly training sessions and his assistance in InfoSec planning. His motivation in many in the ISA and has encouraged so many to strive for higher degrees of excellence. His efforts have been published in the ISA Journal for his hard work in Matilde, promoting the Kentucky ISSA. He has developed a YouTube channel dedicated to education, expansion, and security. Many of the new UPS members we have in our chapter and also attending this conference today are a direct result of Jeremy's influence, both the UPS, the InfoSec community, and also in OWASP. Everybody know OWASP? Finding a new webmaster, Jeff Bott. Jeff Bott is out here somewhere. Jeff Bott is a UPS guy, but he's taken over our web and really going to give us a professional look to our web presence. It's a direct reflection of Jeremy's leadership. He's also reached out to multiple sponsors, encouraged them to participate in our chapter and our conference. He's also presenting during the conference here today running at Matilde Station in Georgia. So congratulations to Jeremy. Thank you for his amazing contributions to the chapter and to the InfoSec profession. I got one more award. The next award is to the ISSA Kentucky 2012 Officer of the Year. Obviously, this award goes to the officer who's shown the most initiative, the most commitment, added the most value, gone over and above time and time again, not only operate the chapter, but make it excel, make it an amazing chapter. Obviously, every officer I have is fantastic. You just met them. They're all fantastic. And they all are worthy of that. I've got one person that is way all the time, over and above, every day trying to talk to them. So I want to make sure that that person is recognized over and above. And that's the winner of the ISSA Kentucky 2012 Officer of the Year is Carl Alexander. Come on. I got this just in case he forgets, what time it is. Carl is really a foundation of the chapter. As I say, he's a founding member of the chapter. He's been on the board every year. He's been a marketing guy, program guy. He's been the treasurer. He's never taken a break from leading this chapter. He stepped up this year to run the chapter conference, and he's done an amazing job. I think that this is an amazing job that he's done here just at the conference, not to mention the contributions made to the chapter and membership. He's one of those people you can always count on. Those people who always gives 200% every time you come in. And everybody you talk to will tell you that's Carl Alexander. He's very active also outside the chapter. He's like a saint. He's got time to do all this stuff with his church, with his work. He does probably 8 hours a week with his job, and he also helps volunteer here. Just amazing. I can never find the words to talk about Carl Alexander and an amazing job that he does, both on a professional and on a personal basis. I want to, on the behalf of the ISSA Kentucky chapter, I want to personally thank you and give him a big hand for his excellence this year. This time, I'd like to call up Dr. George Bowler of ISSA International.
Told me it was supposed to be done at 1:00. So I'm now in negative time. First off, this is terrific to see so many people. I mean, I go to a lot of conferences, and I don't see so many people at some of the major chapter events. So I'd like to give a hand of applause to these guys. Okay, in the ISSA International Conference that will be held at the end of the month, we're going to recognize 16 individuals for their contributions to ISSA and to information security at large. These are some of the words from Mark Williams. He's the chair of the awards committee. I won't read them. But in essence, it says that these folks have made tremendous impact into our career field. Contribution. This is about the ISSA Hall of Fame, one of the premier awards that ISSA gives. Recognizes an individual's exceptional qualities of leadership, not only in their own career, but within their organization, and their exemplary commitment to our profession. The honorees, they have to have supreme professionalism, and they have to have achievements that are exceptional. Anybody recognize any of the pictures up here? Shout out names if you recognize them. Bruce Schneier, well-known name. How about Dorothy Denny? Ron Ross? Don Parker? These are some of the folks that have previously been elected to the ISSA Hall of Fame. T. Spafford, Practical Unit Security. Anybody ever read that book? It's pretty dry, it's pretty big. But it's also one of the seminal books for security. Okay. The individual has to be recognized throughout the information security community. Have a breadth and scope of individual contributions that are significant to the industry and the profession. Now, ISSA membership is not required because we don't just look within the 10,000 members of ISSA. We look throughout the entire community of folks. Now, one of the benefits is that with this award, you get a lifetime ISSA membership. Does anybody know this picture? This is Michael Peters, member of ISSA Kentuckiana. Stellar education, certification, experience track record. Prolific writer, blogger, and speaker. You're going to hear him in a few minutes. He's been a board member of this conference, helping make this conference what it is. Founder and president of 2 ISSA chapters. Got this chapter started and moved out of town, and no ISSA chapter, so I said, hey, let me do this all over again. But beyond that, he's a thought leader in something we call a pathfinder. Pathfinder is the guy that goes out there and he sees the woods, and he says, wow, look at this, there's nothing. And he goes out and he hacks a path toward knowledge, and then he marks that trail for others to follow. Michael's a community leader. He's also something we call a bridge builder. He's the guy that goes out and he fords the chasm or he fords the stream. And then he says, hey, I made it, but let me build a bridge to make it easier for others to follow and to come up and work with me. So at this point, I'd like to invite Michael up here and induct Michael into the ISSA Hall of Fame.
You'll know that I'm alive.
That's it. Congratulations and welcome, sir.
This is it's actually kind of a, a lot of you know me, I'm kind of a tough guy, I guess. But I'm actually a little bit choked up about this. So, anyways, I'm just truly honored, humbled. This is just fantastic. And, one thing that really does, that's come into my mind as I'm hearing all this, is hearsay. Really, I've been an ISSA member for over 10 years now, and one of the really neat things about today is I'm seeing so many familiar faces, and this is, for me, it's not about necessarily just one individual, but for me, it's a team effort. A lot of you out there have been mentors to me along the way, and we've collaborated, and I wouldn't be here today if it were not for a lot of those activities. So thank you, and thank you.
In order to make this presentation in front of you, we were unable to get Michael's plaque here in time. So please know that we do have a more formal induction plaque for Michael. It's just that it was prepared for presentation at the ISSA International Conference, and we couldn't get it in time. Okay, I'd also like to talk about the ISSA Fellow Program. And this is something we do internally for ISSA members, and it's for us, by us. And it recognizes exemplary long-term contributing members who have distinguished themselves in advancing ourselves, the professionalism, the influence, and the esteem of ISSA professionals, okay, of IS professionals, services leaders within ISSA. But a lot of times people think they have to be out in the forefront to be leaders. But you found today there are a lot of leaders behind the scenes. The people who are the nuts and the bolts of ISSA who make things happen. Their contributions to the community, the people that make something like this happen. It also gives us a chance to publicize ISSA as an organization that is developing and connecting cybersecurity professionals globally. We are a global organization. And to show also that these recipients are among the best of the best. Look around. Look at the board of directors. These people are the leaders in our community of security professionals. We look at the substantive contributions ISSA members make to the profession. I think you heard about articles written in the ISSA journal, advancing that profession, stair-stepping toward excellence, and also opportunities available to enhance professional growth. I think that Randy talked about CPEs, continuing professional education. Do we need those? That is our professional growth. We need things like this. We need the word out. Okay, the fellow program also is meant to galvanize and re-energize. It's to get the people with numbers of years of experience to share that experience with others. I think that you just heard Michael talk about that. Bringing somebody under your wing, mentoring. Very important. We need to do that. We need to bring in the next generation. Member recognition, peer and community. Well, in this program we set a bar, and we set that bar at 3 levels. One level, almost anybody can attain. And the other 2 levels, very, very, very difficult to attain. But all can connect through the program. The senior level is available to anybody. You need 5 years of ISSA membership, but you need to participate and you need to support. Okay? Contributions to the security community through your support. Time requirements, 5 years of ISSA membership, 10 years in the community. And if you have an advanced degree, that will take care of 2 years of your 10 years. If you have 2 advanced degrees, a master's degree, and a doctorate, that's 4. The next is the ISSA Fellow. And that recognizes even more commitment. Okay? Demonstrated association leadership, now stepping out in front. More time in the association. Volunteer leadership. 12 years of experience, and now moving into leadership in the experience category. And then the Distinguished Fellow. Top 1% of ISSA members could be a Distinguished Fellow. The next 2% can be Fellow. That is rare. Okay. Distinguished Fellow requires demonstrated exceptional service, coupled with significant contribution. Okay, 12 years association membership, 7 years increasingly responsible volunteer leadership, board membership. 15 years professional experience with, again, advanced degrees. So we'd like to honor someone here who has been elected as an ISSA Fellow. So Randy, please step up. Super. Welcome, ISSA Fellow. Please.
Long time you haven't heard from me, all right? So I want to thank Dr. Bowler for making the trip. He actually made the trip from Columbia, out to the city, the country, to come up here today. That's the commitment that he has to the ISSA, and I really appreciate that. I also want to thank the ISSA Untitled Chapter for allowing me to participate with them for so many years, and also the Blue Linguist community for accepting me and really being all my friends. It's quite an honor and very humbled by this. I'd like to make the best of that and be of value and be a function to those who need me, including other chapters. it's always awesome to be able to do something that you love to do, no longer a job. And, the ISSA for me has been a labor of love for many years. Thank you very much.
Chapter, there are a number of folks that have 5 years of service. The next open period for ISSA senior member is going to come open about the middle of this month. So this would be a good time to start to look at meeting that criteria. With that, I'm at my favorite slide. We usually slide would say questions, but this one says, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I wish for you a great rest of the day, rest of the conference.
This picture, and Missy, the officers real quick. You get back to there. Okay, on with the show. One last thing I did want to say. Last night we awarded Michael Peters the lifetime membership in the ISSA Kentucky chapter as a Hall of Fame member. He is always a member of our chapter now for life. The next thing I'd like to do is introduce Nexum. And Nexum is our keynote sponsor for the afternoon. And Nexum has been a long time participant with us. 7 years, I think I heard, that they've been a sponsor of this conference. It's an amazing relationship. They're an amazing company. And I'd like to bring up J.D. Butt from Nexum.
I just want to thank everyone for allowing us to be a sponsor of the ISSA for the last 7 years. It's an absolutely wonderful organization. We absolutely love to be able to sponsor these types of organizations that continually do things to help better the ISSA community all around the world. It's absolutely a wonderful thing. I'm going to keep this very brief because I've been a long-time ISSA member too, 10 plus years. Sat through a lot of these types of things, and quite frankly, the vendor pitch in front of a large group of people, I've never been a big fan. So I'm just going to put that right out there. So, Nexum, we are a 10-year-old information security and network solutions provider, headquartered in Chicago. We've had an office here in Louisville for about 8 years. So, been very involved in the community here. We're a nationwide company. We have folks that do everything from engineering services, doing things like product integrations and compliance type services, things like penetration testing, and assessment services, and that type of thing. In addition to that, training is a big part of our organization. We have several training classrooms throughout the country where we get to educate folks on different, not only manufactured products, but on different topics like security. So education is a very big thing for us as well. In addition, we also do product support as well as managed services for a large number of manufacturers and a large number of technologies. So, once again, I thank everyone here for attending. It's such an unbelievable ISSA chapter. I can tell you, I've been to a lot of these events all over the country, and the turnout here is shocking, quite frankly. So, once again, we're happy to be a sponsor. We certainly appreciate what's coming up, talking to us at our booth, and that type of thing. So I just want to say thank you, and I guess my computers.
Introduction and certainly the support of the ISSA sec. Let's check something out. We've got a bit of a taste of it already. Pretty cool, I think. It's a 20-second information security video. 20 seconds, coincidentally, is about the attention span that my kids have when I'm talking to them, and I can say that. Embarrass my daughter over there. So be nice enough to endure this today. Speaking of attention spans, anybody that knows me, I don't sit still very well. Now, whether or not this is a situation that maybe requires medication, that aside, it's actually served me well in my information security here in Kenya. I don't know, is there a volume on this thing? Yes. Let's go with the flow. I'll just talk a little louder. So, yeah, whether or not it's a situation that requires medication aside, it's actually served me well in my career. Information security. So information security being the extremely dynamic field, I don't believe that any single security practitioner can actually be the master of all domains. I think the best we can hope to do is kind of keep up, to kind of tread water. So to answer the original question, I think if I were medicated because of that condition, it would all put me behind. So speaking of attention spans, let me introduce you to the 20-minute rule. So 20 minutes is about as long as I can sit still and listen to a presentation like mine. Coincidentally, scientists tell us that we're all pretty much in the same boat here, and that, so I propose this. About every 20 minutes, I'm going to pause, take some questions, have some conversation. We'll kind of recharge, refresh, and you can get some questions out of the way, and then we'll press on to the next segment of my presentation. So, without further ado, when I thought about speaking to you today, being disrupted by microphones and that sort of thing, I first considered, I don't turn it on. Off. Green light, so I think it's off. You're live. So when I thought about what I wanted to talk today, when I was invited by Kentucky and ISSA to present today at this very exciting 10-year anniversary of this chapter, I thought maybe a review of a lot of the recent high-profile breaches that we saw in the news and stuff. But the reality is, there are literally thousands of breaches that have occurred over the past 12 months. Shockingly, only about 33% of all of these breaches were actually reported to some level of law enforcement. So, the Secret Service recently compiled a report that examined the 33% of all these breaches. Here are some facts that emerged. 48% of all breaches were caused by insiders, which means that these are folks like employees, trusted business partners, things of that nature. Obviously, if the Secret Service is presenting data, it's a representation of those breaches that were actually reported. I think it's probably safe to assume that this is also a representation of all of the breaches that haven't been reported. The next fact that emerged, 96% of breaches were avoidable through simple or intermediate controls. When you think about this, what it really represents is about 4% of the time of all these breaches. It would have required some form of sophisticated control, probably a certain amount of professional despair associated with that. The last fact here, the average organizational cost of data breach increased to $7.2 million, and the cost to companies on an average of $214 for compromised record. Now, to me, when I'm pitching projects to the CFO of the company I work for, or trying to make my business case to business people about implementing security controls, $214 for compromised record is like a little gold nugget to me. It becomes one of those factors that I use in what I refer to as an ALE, or an annualized loss expectancy calculation, to basically make a business case rather than a technology case to represent risk to business people. So speaking the same language has definitely been beneficial. So I certainly encourage anybody to latch onto that $214 for the record. So, digging a little bit deeper into that Secret Service report, this is what we found out. 45% of these breaches were caused by external agents, which, these are random entities. They're people, organizations completely separate from our own organization. 31% of the time, these breaches were associated with employees. These are the folks that are most trusted. They're the people, handling the crown jewels and our most critical bits of, our corporate business assets. These are the folks with the most means, the most motive sometimes, and the most access, of course. Taking a look at 7%. Representing business partners. Self-explanatory. or business partners, or folks like our vendors. Maybe they're outsourced relationships, auditors, just folks that we do business with, that we have contractual relations with, that have some form of access to our core business assets. Now, here's an interesting thing to me that I think is a lot of times it's overlooked by many security practitioners and organizations. 17%, which is a huge number in this equation, 17% represents multiple parties. You have the random folks, the external agents, you have the employees, you have the business relationships. So what does this really represent? Well, for example, let's say that I contracted with a software development firm to implement their e-commerce solution, hosted and do that sort of thing. Well, part of my e-commerce system has, let's say, payment processing. Well, payment processing, it's pretty common. Well, typically speaking, these are specialized companies that those business partners sort of outsource that piece of the action to. It's very common for payment processing, which, of course, is huge to us because there's so much sensitive data that's traversing that component. Hackers don't care about, catalog items and shoe sizes and things like that. They want credit card information, personal data and stuff. A lot of times, we overlook these multiple party type relationships when we establish contractual relationships with these vendors. A lot of times we're not applying security policies and procedures to those third-tier type relationships. We do with our vendors, we do with our employees, but we can't overlook those sources which are obviously causing a significant amount of trouble for our organizations. So, holy cow. So what could possibly be the source for all of this, these missed intrusions, the loss of, the data leaks, the breaches, and that sort of thing? I would make a suggestion, potentially. If 30% or 33% of all breaches are reported to law enforcement, it kind of gets me thinking, well, what are some of these causes? There's really two questions that come to my mind when I'm sort of thinking about this. One is, what are the common denominators, and what could I possibly do about this to protect my organization? And the other is, what's up with that 67%? So these are suggestions, they're not facts. They're my suggestions for this presentation. The first one is 67% of security professionals are unqualified to do the job. So I also have to be a mind reader, and I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, Michael, baloney. Man, I can't beat my chest with this thing. I've got my CISSP, or I've got my PhD, and I am well prepared to lead information security for my organization. To that, I would say, my friends, I have a driver's license, and yet I continue to get speeding tickets. So does it mean I'm not a good driver? Don't answer that. Or does it mean that I haven't implemented some really good controls to prevent myself from getting speeding tickets? Well, the reality is that a very similar principle does apply to corporate security. The fact of the matter is that unqualified, untrained, or underqualified and undertrained security practitioners will implement poor controls for their organizations. The next thing, 67% of organizations do not support security. Well, that may be so. But I think that the bigger issue is whether or not these organizations actually understand the risks to their organizations by these technological threats. And by understanding this, that we're properly framing these things in a business fashion. We're speaking their language. We have a language gap in some sort of way. So, I mentioned earlier about the ALE, the annualized loss expectancy. That's a financial calculation that a CFO would grasp. They'd understand that it's something that you can leverage to increase your success in promoting your security initiatives. So, I know. What I've been talking about is essentially, failure and whatnot, but don't despair. There is actually a way forward. In a little bit, we're going to talk about a sustainable plan, a way forward, and we'll talk about the security trifecta. But first, we are actually at our first break, so maybe I'm running a bit faster than 20 minutes, but I don't think anybody's going to mind. At this juncture, with what I've shared so far, what sort of questions do you have? I know we're basically all in the same boat. What kind of, what should we talk about for just a couple minutes, and then I'll get started with the next presentation. Oh, come on. You guys have questions? It's really hard to hear.
So, your suggestion is 67% of unqualified security professionals.
Take this. Take it away.
Yeah, I should have never raised my hand. Okay, so you suggest that 67% of security professionals are unqualified. I would assume that you're going to give us recommendations in regards to that to ensure that what we implement or what we interpret as what we need to do as best practices could be confirmed by the other 33%.
So 33%, that was the average amount of breaches that were actually reported to law enforcement, right? So 67% is basically, okay, what's up with that number? So this is a suggestion that represents that number. And I'm not saying it's a fact, but it's a suggestion. But I do have some more information that will, that will support that. Move it up. To my ear. That sounds like it's better, right? Okay. So we take that data, right? So the 33% breaches that are actually reported. It means 67% are not being reported. So what's up with that information? For example, we learned that 96% of all the breaches, they basically say that simple intermediate type controls would have eliminated those threats or those breaches. Well, when we think about what that actually means, what does it cost to do an IT security risk assessment, for example? Or what does it cost to create sustainable information security policies, some governance documentation? Really just those two simple activities effectively would eliminate 96% of all breaches, according to this information. So we're looking for the root cause. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Let's see if I have some data there for you. We'll get into some of those details in just a little bit. Maybe somebody else has a question? Yeah. Yeah, it probably makes more sense. Okay, all right. So, nothing to say. Nobody's offended by that? Nobody's troubled? They want to dispute it? Okay. Well, let's move on. All right, so it's time for some good news. Gave you a little bad news. Now it's time for some good news. So I told you that we did have a way forward. So what I want to do right now is talk about some of those common denominators, and fortunately, we do have a few that are pretty easy to identify. Now today, they basically represent espionage, financial gain, and hacktivism. Espionage has really become a state-supported and a corporate-supported activity without too many visible repercussions or consequences and penalties. Intellectual property is being stolen by other competing companies, which obviously devastates business value. Governments destroy critical infrastructure and subvert the sovereignty of other nation states. All of this creates tensions and it just cascades into other problems. From a financial gain standpoint, the theft of human identities, financial data, this has really led to an epic economic crisis and damage in the world. It puts our trust in financial organizations and the security leaders over those organizations, security products and services. It really puts a lot of that into question, and honestly, as a consumer, there's good reason. The last one up here, activism. This is basically one of the more random elements here. There are some really great cases where, exposing the truth in the world somewhere brings about some positive change and light and whatnot. Other times, it really just resembles, anarchy, chaos, and more than any sort of noble cause. So anyways, how about some more good news? Sound good? So let's explore the security trifecta. So, I mentioned that there's a way forward to successful cyber defense. Really at a high level right now, it's crucial that we apply a three-phased approach to information security through governance, through technological enforcement, and through vigilance types of activities towards security. This is a subject I've referenced in books and publications and whatnot. Really in an effort to raise the awareness on the simplicity that we can actually take and apply towards our information security practices, but also in a way to create sustainable, approachable, holistically applicable ways of securing our organizations. It's certainly vital to anyone here to collaborate with your information security comrades. I'm one of those resources for you. I'd love to get questions. I'd love to have discussions with people and collaborate and come up with better ways of raising the bar on security wherever it resides. So I always welcome that. You better believe that I reciprocate this. There's one thing that I definitely know, and that's no individual here has all of the answers as a security practitioner, but collectively, I feel like we do. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the security trifecta. So I mentioned governance activities. So what this really means, it's basically it's like the law. It's rules, it's regulations, it's policies and procedures. it's all the things that go into really building our framework, our foundation for our security practice. Everything should really start, with a good solid foundation. Those governance activities are subsequently enforced by technological controls. Pretty straightforward, but as an example, let's say I have a policy on password construction, complexity and things like that. Well, if I'm using Active Directory, well, I'm going to have an Active Directory policy that enforces that written security policy about password construction. So you have the governance, you have the technological enforcement. So the same thing applies through and through. Now with technological enforcement, there are certain things that we can enforce just point blank, no doubt about it, yes and no, black and white, that kind of thing. There are other types of technological approaches that we have to take because they affect end users more significantly than others. And a lot of times, give you an example, let's say it's an internet usage policy. Well, a lot of times our users, our end users, have a lot of liberties that they can take. So, sometimes it's a give and take relationship. So that's where the technological enforcement comes in. The vigilance facet of the security trifecta is all about the activities like testing, like remediation, like awareness training for people who are affected by our security policies and technologies. It's all about refining our controls and improving upon ourselves. So this is a cyclical type of activity. The fact is, without order, we have disorder. So all of these facets are completely within our power to implement. For example, start by conducting an IT security risk assessment. So, if done properly, your risk assessments are going to contain these steps. These are well established, fully baked, widely publicized steps that you take during an IT security risk assessment. I'll briefly go through some of these things. For example, for starters, system characterization. So system characterization is really about an exercise in identifying what your core business assets are, what's most important to your organization, what's the heart and soul, the technology, the information, things that are most important to your company. Without it, effectively there's no company. That's really the litmus test and how you determine this. Now, you need to make some decisions. You really need to rely on business leaders for answers in this category. But basically, you have to set a priority for what's most important. So this will help set your strategy later on when it comes to formulating a security, a roadmap for your strategy. The next two, threat identification and vulnerability identification. Again, pretty straightforward. It's about identifying those threats, those vulnerabilities that pose risk to your core business assets. So, okay, let's say, for example, I wanted to stand up a data center in Louisville, Kentucky. Well, what kind of threats do I need to consider when deciding where I want to plant that facility? Well, let's look at natural disasters. Maybe I need to consider tornadoes. I know you guys have those driven downtown sometimes. How about floods? It's a river city. So there's things like that you have to consider and you have to make into your security, your risk assessment. A lot of this information you don't have to work too hard for. In the case of like nature, those environmental threats. There's tons of great data out there that's compiled by folks like NOAA, National Weather Service, local weather service. That will give you lots of historical information that you can use to make really effective decisions and determining, what levels of risk, might be present. And a lot of risk avoidance is really about predicting the future. And, it's not a perfect science, but if you apply certain principles sort of universally as you work through these things, you'll get some nice consistent results. Let's look at control analysis. Control analysis is, again, pretty straightforward. There's nothing cryptic about what they're saying here. But this is all about identifying what we have in place today to eliminate or remediate, to eliminate or mitigate some of the risks, all of the risks that threaten our core business assets. Invariably, you're going to find that you have gaps. All that, gap analysis. You may have heard that somewhere before. But that will also go into formulating your security strategy, your roadmap for fixing things down the road. Impact analysis, likelihood determination. All right, again, what's the chance that tornadoes can take out your data center? Well, I have some historical data. Or what about, human threats, vulnerabilities in software, not patching systems versus patching systems. At this juncture, information security as a practice has really matured, and we're just everywhere. There's lots of information. You can leverage, guilt your security vendors to provide some of this information to you. Work smarter, not harder, is what I always say. But they'll help you come up with an educated guess of likelihood. Impact analysis, remember that $214 value that I cited earlier for cost of a compromised record? Well, there's a representation of one of those facts. You have to determine what it's going to cost if I lost that. If my company store were compromised and somebody ran off with my database of customers, my customer of one, well, that would cost me $240. So that's a number that you will use to calculate an ALE. And at the end of the day, when you make a business proposal, generally speaking, you will not want to spend any more than it costs for the damage that's been done. So, control recommendations. Okay, so I have a gap analysis that came out of my control analysis. I know what my universe looks like because I've gone through all these other steps. So now it's time to apply a strategy. We all have to set roadmaps up. So do it in a risk management fashion. You've got your priorities set because you understand through system classification. So, all of these things really feed these activities and should increase your effectiveness. Lastly, the results documentation. Okay, so I test, I refine, I go through all of these activities. I record the successes, the failures, the performance. It's a compilation of a lot of information. Some of that you use to promote other projects and other initiatives. Some of it you use to improve the processes and things that are occurring in-house. Sometimes it's for executive reports. Sometimes it's to justify staff ads for your job if something happens bad. But anyways, it's an extremely valuable piece of information. Right, so digging a little bit deeper into the control environment, let's say, for example, if it's a governance stuff, it's a policy that we need, implement it and make everyone in the company aware of its existence through awareness campaigns and employee or third-party signature acknowledgements. So you have to keep people accountable. The alternative is that you're essentially vetting the company and your reputation in your career, quite frankly. But not doing so. If it's technology, if it's technological control that we need, use your IT risk assessment data to calculate the ALE, please you can from the CFO. business many times. And this is only going to increase your chances of success. The last leg here, the vigilance cycle. So if it's vigilance that we need that emerges from our gap analysis, make the schedules that you and your team are measured on. Automate what you can, developing processes that are sustainable for the rest. Test your controls before some hacker or some rogue employee does. The important thing is putting in place a plan is really your key to success. All right, so it's effectively time for the break. And do we have any other questions at this point? You guys are just getting anxious. You want me to keep forwarding ahead, don't you? Come on, we got some kind of questions. What do you think about ALE? Everybody understand that? If you've never conducted an IT security risk assessment, or maybe it seems a little intimidating because I was in exactly that same place. It's like, wow, it's so freaking complicated. How do I get my arms around this? Well, not long ago, I wrote an article. It's called IT Security Risk Management Demystified. A little bigger. Anyways, you can download it for free on my blog, or you can purchase it through some other publications. So head on over to the blog, download it. It's a pretty good distillation on how it works, and hopefully, it makes it very accessible. So definitely check that out. Because it's such an important activity to do as a security practitioner or organization. Any other questions? Yep. Awesome.
Come into the microphone so everybody can hear.
Hello. Yes, I may have a hidden agenda in this segment, but what it sounds like to me and what you can do to help the situation is to try to strive to have a better strategic relationship between your security associates and your company's internal audit department. Because that's what internal audit does, is governance, risk, and control. And working together as adversaries, we can help drive better security practices. But it only works if we really have that mutual respect for each other.
One thing that I have found, and I've worked with for many, many companies, a couple of things are pretty consistent. Generally speaking, yes, the relationship between the internal audit department and everyone else, it's kind of like lawyers and everyone else, or security practitioners and everyone else. It doesn't have to be that way. But I've also found that a large focus of internal audit has a whole lot to do more with compliance, as well as enterprise risk, which is a different animal than IT security risk. They're complementary activities. I've never known an internal audit department to conduct a security risk assessment. That could be different in your organization. I've never seen it, but it is very complementary. There has to be a symbiotic sort of relationship, and that truly exists. Something else that I've found that I guess taking time to build those relationships. Everybody works for the same company, right? If it goes out, we go out. So we do have mutual benefit in coming up with a partnership there. But yeah, it's security risk assessments are something I rarely see anybody conducting. Thanks for that. Anybody else have a question? Going once, twice. All right. Let's move on to the last part of my presentation here, and basically it's collaboration versus isolation. So, we've heard this before, but I'll say say it again. No single security practitioner here has all the answers, but collectively, we do have all of the answers. So a recent study conducted by HP, there were some pretty disturbing some difficult information emerged. So here's the highlights. Okay, only about 14% of security professionals are actually confident that their current IT security solutions are giving them a concise picture of their security and risk state. So why is this? Could be that we fail to properly understand the threatscape facing our organizations. Could be that basically, how do you know what road you need to be on if you don't know what your destination is in a simple sort of way? Get those risk assessments done, because you're going to understand what gaps in technology you have, what gaps in governance you have, and so on and so forth. I can't stress that enough. The alternative is when you lack an understanding of your environments, when you lack an understanding of the actual threatscape facing your organizations. Really, what you're taking is a bit of a shotgun approach. Chances are you're going to miss the mark. The next one. Only about 44% of the surveyed organizations possess capabilities to uncover vulnerabilities. In college, I got a 66% on an exam that I failed. In business, if I fail, it might mean the company goes out of business, or probably means I lose my job, and definitely my credibility. So these are things that, in my book, are unacceptable. Only about 60% of the surveyed organizations were actually carrying out real-time monitoring of security events. All I have to say here is automation is your friend, and the consolidation of your command and control facilities is really paramount. And alternatives, we get drowned in this big undertow of just this volume of information that we get hit with every single freaking day. The last one here. So only about 41% of surveyed organizations actually conduct, IT security risk management exercises, which includes business IT asset analysis prioritization. Go figure. You haven't heard that one today, have you? So please, get those IT security risk assessments. Get that kicked off. Again, download the clip notes on how to do this from my blog or somewhere else. They have some rather extensive guidance there, but whatever the source, please do that. Oops. Okay, let me fix that, Chris. Reboot. Reboot. Nice. So, how many people right here? I'm just kind of curious what we're doing. How many people here are not ISSA members? What do you think? 10%? 5%? I'm not going to pick on anybody. I'm going to single you out. I commend you for your bravery. You're at an ISSA conference and you're not a member. Now, I was going to tell you about lobbying for 10 years and whatnot. You kind of got that squishy, mushy stuff when I was in it for this. Anyways, let's skip ahead here. Looking at your content. Unless you guys want to repeat this. No? Me neither. It's time for siesta. Some sort of libation. Okay. I think this is where we left off. All right, so obviously obviously the ISSA is an organization, an international organization devoted to improving the condition of information security wherever it exists, throughout the whole world. A nonprofit organization, so that tells you something about modes and whatnot. We're surrounded by the local security heroes like Randall and the board members here, folks that put this on. The heart and soul of, in my mind, like I said, the security heroes in this community. The ISSA is chock full of like-minded security practitioners. I'm proud to be with this organization for 10 plus years now, and there's no end in sight. But it's vitally important that we get involved, that we collaborate. We mentor each other, bounce ideas. It was sort of for years and years, as I've come up through my career, sharing information was like, oh, you can't do that. We can't talk about the fact that we might have dirty laundry too. Well, like I said before, no single security practitioner here has all the answers. But like I say, together, collectively, I bet you we do. So definitely collaborate, with your peers, seek out answers to your problems, your questions. By all means, mentor, the future generations of our practice. We have nonstop, there's just this deluge of threats that are facing us all the time. And I don't know about you, but you hear the news, there's always something going on, and sometimes it's like, man, how am I ever going to get ahead? Earlier we heard about burnout and stuff. That's where being isolated, it just exacerbates that problem. Another great source of information, if you haven't checked out, it's called the Security Bloggers Network. If you've never checked it out, just Google on it. And what you're going to find is this compilation of just, hundreds of really talented information security professionals who have been collected together in this one network. They blog, they provide mentoring, expertise, and it's a lot of brand names are out there. I know I'm out there. I know Jack's out there. Tons of security practitioners. These are all people who are just as passionate, and it's a great resource for tracking down expertise and just learning things. I make it a great part of my intellectual rounds, so I definitely encourage you to do that. So we have essentially reached the end of my presentation. Like the sign says, device center. So I might suggest an ISSA membership. I might also suggest maybe a good book. And speaking of books, if I know I haven't had anything available, but I'll fix that in a bit. But for anybody else that's bought one of my books, thank you so much. If you haven't got the signature in one of those babies, I'm more than happy to do that. You might also find it pretty handy in some of my event. So outside of that, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference, folks. How am I going to get that on the airplane? Awesome.
Plastic cabinet. Let's give Michael Peters a hand again. Awesome. On behalf of the ISSA Untitled Chapter, I'd like to award Michael Peters with a small token of our appreciation. He is from Louisville, Kentucky, but we do represent. So this is the fast little slugger.
Awesome.
It is a great today, Michael Peters, keynote speaker, 2012 Louisville Metro ISSA Conference.
From a security standpoint,
Okay, that concludes our afternoon session. Everyone is welcome to break now. We have another session coming up shortly. Feel free to take advantage of snacks over here, cookies and milk, and see you then.
Brian, step directly to that picture. Come on. You gotta run the camera.
What's that?
I got volunteered to run the camera for your
Did you?
presentation.
I won't be up there.
Where you gonna be?
All over the place.
I'm not gonna keep you in frame, man. Don't make me
You're
worry.
not.
You don't want to be in frame, do you?
I always screw with them. Anytime cameras, I don't do it on purpose. I just don't like being behind podiums.
This isn't a power. It's
Not as much fun.
Just slam it.
It's a lot more fun.
Did he leave this running?
I don't know. I just got here. I'm supposed to run the session now after.
Okay, they left it running.
After